Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, coming to you live from the Robot Room here, Star City Savages, and our special guest today from Blessed Machine is Pete Ruttman. Pete, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. This is going to be a great discussion, I bet.
Yeah, man. We've talked a little bit on Discord specifically when I put out the call about the Aces anthology. You eagerly jumped in, and I was like, wow, this guy's got some. He's got some go get it. Are you a comic book fan, Pete?
I am. I think you probably can see some of my stuff behind me.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 60 long boxes in the basement. Uh,
60.
um, Comic books are were my first love.
Right.
When once I came across that, it was hard. It was hard pressed. And when I got into gaming, obviously at that time, D&D was pretty much all there was. And then I walked into a gaming store in Galena, Illinois, and they had a boxed set of Champions. And I saw that, and I saw my two love interests collide, and I never looked back. I ran Champions for decades after that. So yeah, those are my favorites.
So Champions, like I know that fans of superheroes are always at some point end up playing Champions. What could you tell me about the system of Champions, other than
So
how it's the best way to like lose your hair?
yeah, I mean, so at the time when it was coming into its own, games weren't afraid. Wasn't designers weren't afraid to make a crunchy game, right?
Right.
And in the last decade or so, I think we've seen a lot. Let's reduce the rules. Let's make entry into the game a little easier. And I think that's kind of changed perspectives. But as far as what I think is incredible about Champions and the hero system is that it is so well balanced. You can do It's a point based system, and you can literally build pretty nearly anything. Obviously, you might be restricted by points. If your GM says this is how many points you can build it on, your Superman may not be able to stop the but there is levels that you can that can be decided upon. You could do galactic level, and then certainly yes, you can mess with planets. It really handles all of that's those sort of scales really well. It was built as a superhero game. Champions came before the hero system was spun out of that. It does other genres okay, but kind of like how Savage Worlds does Deadlands just really really well.
Right.
You might say maybe there's another rule set that might slightly do another genre better, but it's nice to have a generic system, and that's what the hero system is. And it was actually for my first for the Secret Agents Across back there. Initially, that was a hero system game I was working on before I came across Savage Worlds, and then fell in love with that system as well.
And that's one of the Secret Agents of the Cross is one of the ones that helped you apply for the license to get into Savage Worlds, right?
That is correct. Yep, I
Uh,
got my ACE license by presenting them that topic. Yep.
we were in the green room, and you were telling me that Secret Agents Across was actually based around like a Supers game.
Yeah, I ran champions with my local group for
Hmm.
I think a campaign that went around 10 years.
Yeah.
And we had a very nasty encounter that ended up in two of the player characters getting killed. And if not for that horrific death, one of those players wouldn't have created Tiberius Crane, who is a cyborg, and he just happened to come up with the idea that he works for the Vatican. So we started sort of ingesting a little bit of religion and things like that into the game, at a comic book level, similar to we see that in Marvel and DC, here and there. And so we started looking at that, and as I started developing that out, That's where the idea that it's an entire agency. It actually isn't. Secret Agents Cross is it's actually an organization that's sort of adjacent to the Vatican. That it was created by a cardinal. That he's sort of like a rogue cardinal. He was trying to work with the Pope. The Pope didn't want to have sort of like a team that would go out and do missions to protect the flock, and
Right.
so he did it. He did it on his own, and that's how Cross was born. So I built that all out of just one little gem of an idea from a player, and we played all that, and that Champions game went from Spandexy Supers to going to heaven, go to hell, and eventually back to Earth and defeating this huge demon at the end, and then
Classic '90s run.
yeah, yeah, you gotta go all the standard places,
It
right?
was like Eric Larson, Todd McFarlane, eat your heart outs. We're doing it in gaming.
Got it. You got it. So, yeah, and then what happened after that was with that same person that did Kurt Wood, who did the idea for Tiberius. He also is an artist, and for a while we worked on making a Secret Agents Across book called Blessed Machine, and that didn't end up working out just because of scheduling and things like that. And maybe we'll see through this upcoming project some chance for this script to finally
Yeah.
come to fruition. We have a 4-issue script completely in the can. Obviously, it needs some editing. I'm not a comic book writer yet, but we're working towards that. So that'll be super exciting for me, and that's totally why I jumped at it, because I'm like, I've wanted this. It's a bucket list item.
Right. We're
To
gonna.
have a comic book in my hand, that I wrote, alongside my 60 long boxes, of other writers.
So tell me a little bit. When you got into comic books, how old were you?
Oh, probably. I mean, I got some from my brother Jeff. I'm sure I have visions of some old World's Finest issues with Superman and Batman on the covers. Um, and so I'd say that's probably 7, 8, 9. And then started and then found Marvel at that time, and I started my own collection primarily around Spider-Man and Avengers. And the
Spider-Man's my
thing I
guy
love
too.
about what's that?
Spider-Man's my guy too.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, obviously, I mean, we could all at that age, you could really identify with that character and what
Well,
was being put through.
I think like if I'm gonna like go on a little bit, like here's what makes Spider-Man work for me as a character. Have you seen the latest one, No Way Home?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
He risks his life to save the bad guys. Peter Parker is the kind of person that if we encountered him on the street and we were in danger, he would save us. Whereas someone like the Punisher or Wolverine,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's do you save the innocent or punish the guilty? It's like save the innocent is what Peter Parker goes with.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, and it's good to have a world full of different superheroes, but yes, I think you would prefer Spider-Man to be, if you're the innocent bystander, that's a good choice.
Well, I mean, like let's be honest. There's like they play it up for laughs, but like New Yorkers are asking him for directions, and he's like giving people directions on how to get places.
Yep.
I mean, a guy walking around with a skull on his chest with like 80 million guns on his back. You don't ask him how to get down to the Quickie Mart, but your friendly
Yeah,
neighborhood Spider-Man.
yeah, yeah, and the Punisher never gets to be called the friendly neighborhood Punisher. There's a reason why Spidey gets that.
I mean, he started out as a Spider-Man villain of all things.
Yep.
I mean, people might think he's cool because he gets the job done, but like they don't want to be around him. Like Spider-Man, I remember as a kid, I could have the worst day ever, and I could pick up a Spider-Man comic book, and he could make me laugh. So
And also had an equivalent or worse day than you.
yeah, yeah,
Which was really the fire behind Stan Lee's, Marvel creation, is the fact that these are real people that you're reading about it, in a fictional way, but they feel real, and they have terrible things that happen to them. I mean, in that movie, I don't want to spoil it for someone else, but a
I'm a
major
supervillain. I
character
can spoil
dies.
movies.
Major character dies, and it's really his fault in in
Yeah.
in in some versions of how you want to when you want to play that.
Oh,
Um,
dude. Like, all right, we're just let's. I guess we're gonna like. I'm gonna go ahead and like pull the band-aid off. Like Willem Dafoe's in that movie, and he's Norman Osborn. He's Green Goblin for those at home. It is that moment when he and Tom Holland's Spider-Man are going at it, and you are just like, this Spider-Man has never faced a threat on this level before. He has never faced someone this evil in his universe. And then, like, when, backup shows up, you're like, oh man, it's on.
yep, yep. I mean, when it comes to Spider-Man and his and meeting with his villains, I think the MCU has done some really incredible scenes. I think that what you're talking about is prime. His reaction to Doc Ock and creating that that sort of friendship there.
Hmm.
And then it goes back to the first MCU Spider-Man. One of my favorite MCU scenes in all is when um, Peter's in the back of uh, the Vulture's car, and you and I'm blanking on the actor's name.
Michael
Super
Keaton.
famous. Michael Keaton is look, and you're watching his eyes in the rearview mirror as he's talking to Peter, and it's a completely different set of really what they're saying, even though what their words versus what their meanings. That
Hmm.
was just incredible, and it just felt like comics. It just felt like relationships between. This is why I want it to be friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I don't need him to go to faraway
Right.
planets and things like that. And that, to bring it back to my own work, I am pretty much keeping everything in the city
Yeah.
because I like the fact that you can have those interpersonal relationships. You can know a policeman and meet with him 3 times. You know the mayor. Maybe the mayor hates you, like J. Jonah Jameson hates Spider-Man. But those things can keep coming up. And I think and knowing your villains and having multiple interactions with them makes for good comics and makes for good gaming.
So you're referring to Campaign City, which there's a placard of it up here, right? And you got the Kickstarter going on. Tell us about some of the things that you've done with Campaign City that are a bit nuevo.
I can't say that I'm doing something that no one's ever done before, but my intention is when I sat down and I've been doing superhero gaming for decades. I've created a lot of my own stuff. I've collected. I've got bookshelves full of mostly superhero stuff
Hmm.
up there. And when I said I got to get back to my love, I love Secret Agents Across. I loved making it. I love playing it, but it isn't my original love, which was supers, and I wanted to get back to that. I said, well, I could make my own city, and I can make I can do sort of retreading a lot of what I think other authors have done. So whether this is successful or not in the big scheme, I don't know. But the idea was I will make Campaign City Supers, and the reason I have the generic name, is because it is intended to be slightly generic in the sense that when you're ready to run supers, you should be able to pick up Campaign City Supers, take one of the adventures from that, pop it into your city. If you're doing something really bizarre out there, maybe you'd have to do some modifications. But if your thing is anything like a Marvel universe or the DC universe, or trying to think of like San Angelo, which is a Champions one, Millennium City, another hero system. This stuff will fit. It's spandexy, it can't be as you want it to be. But what I wanted to do was then create you bite-sized sections of things that you can take and put in your world. So or in your city. So the first main story is called Evolution Unchained. It's actually kind of a redo of a very early product that I did for Hero System. Um, and what it does is creates a whole lot of maps with full legends, a bunch of heroes, and or a bunch of villains, sidekicks to those, minions, and then a full, multi-act adventure, but with the idea that all these places could be revisited. So, like as an example, there's Frothy's Bar and Grill. So you got a full map and legend of that. Who hangs out there? Well, some of the mob folks hang out there. So I'm thinking that Darren Watts, if we get stretch goal number 2, he's probably going to tap into Frothy's Bar and Grill, use those mob characters, and then expand it himself. And so then that's first stretch goal hopefully expands on something from the previous thing, and then on down the line. So no matter how many stretch goals we get, we'll interlink all of this and breathe new life, and expand things out. So if you buy it, you're going to have, you'll start out with, probably 12 or 14 different maps that you could use for different places, locales throughout, and a legend that is specific to the adventure, but it's totally reusable. Like there's a gym called the New You Gym, with a swimming pool, multiple floors. There's no reason why you couldn't have a fight in there, and with a different villain, or just meet with Kyle, the manager, at New Year Gym, or find out that he secretly is a superhero, in backup story number 3 or 4.
What I'm getting from you is that like the city itself is a character, and the supers that the players create are interacting with this character that is the city. You've really gone a long way to like fleshing that out, right?
Yeah, and most at least most hero superhero GMs generally are pretty creative folks and are kind of building their own stuff along with it too. I want it to be able to, for them to be able to go, oh, that like in Pepper Alley Panic, which is one of the stretch goals, that definitely is going to be included. That one introduces Patsy Partridge, who is the Pulse News's lead journalist. That sky's the limit there. You got a Lois Lane character. If you, in your story, you're like, yeah, I needed a journalist, grab this one. Mm-hmm. Or even better, you already have a journalist, replace mine with yours, and now you've got it linked, right into your own story. So flexibility is probably what I'm really going for, but absolutely, I want you to feel like I want this. The layout looks like a comic. It kind of reads like a comic, and I want it to expand and grow kind of like a comic.
Tell us a little bit about the art.
The art is primarily done by myself, and a fellow Jason Patterson, who's passed away. Okay. He did a lot of the art for the Evolution Unchained, the main story. Stretch goals, that's kind of the other big thing, is that I don't want it just to be my voice.
Right.
So I'm hiring writers that are kind of new to writing game stuff, veterans. So we got Steve Long, Darren Watts, are the first 2 stretch goals. Both of those guys are well known from the champion side of the house, amongst lots of other things. And then we got Dan Smith, who's done. He's very well known for GURPS, Steve Jackson game stuff. And so he's definitely on the hook for, I think he's with Steve, so he's funded, so we get a piece from him. Bobby Bryce is kind of new to
shout out to your boy Bobby.
Yep. He's fantastic. He's gonna go places with his talent. So
I'm the one that, for those of you that don't know, I'm the one that introduced, because Bobby's working on the anthology, and let me tell you, that guy's a go-getter. He is hungry. He's like, let's make some comics, man. And I'm like, okay, well, let me roll some nickels, see if I can pay you for those pages.
He's fast too.
Yeah, because he wants it.
Yeah. So yeah. And I haven't signed contracts with too many others, but I'm readily available to do that as soon as we get onto the stretch goals. So currently where we are in the project, just to get this out there, the project as itself is funded. So Evolution Unchained, the main store written by me, with art by myself and Jason Patterson. That's complete, and is part of the project and will be delivered. And then the next one is Steve Long and Dan Smith. It looks like that's going to be something about a sort of a technology villain, and something banking related. So we will see where that takes us.
Oh, you're going for the
And
real world
then,
villains right there, aren't you?
well, and for me, it's like when he said I want to do a bank, and I'm like, that's such a classic sort of the bank robbery thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have a bank yet. I've got 15 maps. I didn't have a bank yet, so this is awesome. So it's just going to be such a nice, I just want you as a GM to be able to grab it and go, let's see, I will grab this villain and this location and these this cop or this citizen, and as an innocent bystander, and I got a story.
Yeah, like the bad guy breaks in and the vault's full of IOUs.
Exactly. There's always a twist, right? I mean, comics is notorious for that, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure Steve's got something up his sleeve. So, and then where we are right now, we're working towards stretch goal number 2, which is $1,600. That actually is what I call the giant-sized stretch goal, because I always want to channel the comic book
Right.
stuff. So it'll be that'll be Darren Watts. He wrote Golden Age Champions, and just a slew of other, definitely spandex, kind of superhero stuff, and Bobby. And then I also am throwing in Pepperelli Panic, which is my convention game that I've been running all around the Midwest. And that has art also by Bobby Bryce. That picture I show on the Kickstarter.
Like we gotta
So
stop talking Bobby up so much, otherwise his rates will go up.
no, I know. Yeah, Bobby's okay.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, he's a likable guy.
yeah. So yeah, so I'm just hopeful for more people to throw in, because it's not about me just making more money digitally. I kind of set these stretch goals up to pay these people. So not only are you helping create something, kind of your words maybe unique. I don't know, but I'll say it's something I haven't really seen before, presented in this format. With backup adventures to the main adventure, written by people, in the industry, newcomers. So we're supporting new artists, new writers. We're giving work to people that you know and trust, like Steve Long. I think and at a price that is quite reasonable. $15 buys you into this, and you get all this stuff. And there's some add-ons if you want to be in the book as a supervillain. You want your name used, or you want your likeness for an extra 15. Bobby or Dan will draw you and right into the comics, so you're part of Campaign City. So lots of options, but if I had my way, we would be doing a couple of issues of this whole thing year, and just kind of continue to provide growth in this space. But it's really up to everyone to see what they think of Savage Worlds as a superhero game. Are they wanting this kind of content? It's always, I think, a bit of a challenge to sell sort of a GM only product. I'd argue that you could make your personal superhero more interesting if you were to read some of these adventures, because you can tie yourself to the reporter. You could tie yourself to a job, at the new bank that'll be coming up here in stretch goal number 1. So, but I get that. I mean, but I think that in general, I've seen the Savage Worlds people be pretty open to adventures. And I wouldn't call this a plot point campaign, but it definitely will have the feel of an ongoing stories that will expand, and we won't just let every plot, plot, the web of the plot completely die. We'll pick up little pieces and run with it.
I gotta tell you, man, as a fan of like Savage Worlds, I love it. It's my system. Um, the Superpowers companion is great, but you're right. Like if you look in the bestiary, there's no reporter. That's like a mainstay. There's no stat for. I mean, there's stat for the police, but there's no like this is the commissioner, or there's no like wild card NPC, just regular people. I remember just a little anecdote. I remember being in like a superhero LARP one time, and everybody was a superhero. Everybody in the city was a superhero, and at no point had the game master filled in the mayor or the police or anybody to that effect. So it's literally these demigods just standing around waiting for somebody to do something with no one in danger. So
Yeah, I mean, I do have a superhero LARP book. I can't say that I've attempted it. It would be hard pressed to be like, I'll go to the events and be the reporter. Be for some folks, but that's for the GM. I mean, there's still a GMing aspect to that.
there really
So
is. I feel like
should be.
with Campaign City Supers, it's this fills in the gap of what is missing. Like it almost feels like you need this book if you're going to have like a city to have things to be a part of the world there.
And in all honesty, that's why it exists, because I'm doing exactly what you're saying. Is I'm running a superhero campaign. I'm building this because I have a bunch of super villains from the companion that I can use, but I don't have a lot of the other stuff. So, and I don't know if I stress this well enough, but it's a requirement for the authors to have a normal citizen and a new location in every one they write.
That's
So
great.
yes, they'll get a superhero. Well, you'll get a superhero and a supervillain, but you kind of expect that, right?
Hmm.
But you don't always expect to get the policeman. You know, I think in Steve's story, he says there's a heroic teller, and that'll be the bank character that we will hopefully use down the road. So I appreciate what you're saying. I think it is true. I mean, yes, someone could have filled this gap by just creating a city and having you run in that city. I just feel like we're all creative and we kind of understand what a modern city is like. And that's what we're seeing on all of our TVs and movie screens, a modern city. So just let me give you the spots so that you don't have to necessarily come up with what's in every room.
Right.
And the maps are pretty detailed. You go down like in the gym. I go through the chemicals that are used to prepare the swimming pool, because I don't know, maybe you want to mess with that, right? As a GM.
Well,
So my particular story does not mess with the swimming pool, but I put it in there because I will mess with that sometime down the road, or I think I would like to.
with all the maps and like regular NPCs, it's like you don't necessarily just need this for superpowers. Like this will be like if you wanted to run a crime campaign or if you wanted to run just a regular modern day campaign without even the supers in it. It sounds like you need this book.
Yeah, you. I mean, obviously, I run a lot of modern as
Hmm.
well. So, and sometimes I'll find the lack of modern maps out there. I've
So
heard
much
that's pretty
fantasy.
good, but yeah, fantasy is the big thing. So yes, these are all modern maps. Full color maps. They're actually designed with an actual floor planning tool. You know, and where that's lacking, I do my own. I guess I call myself an artist. I do a fair bit of art, um, but I'm mainly just pretty good at Adobe tools, and my other life is IT. So I can manipulate those things pretty well, and if I need something that just doesn't exist in those tools, I can make it up and get it in there and make it the way I envision it. Because I guess the whole point of Blessed Machine, why I did this, was because I want a very high profile game table. I want color maps. I want miniatures or at least cardboard stand ups in color. Now that I'm into 3D printing, I want terrain. I want all this sort of, stuff. And superheroes is colorful. I don't want black and white, artwork. I want color artwork. And to do that, the level that I wanted to do it, I thought if I could sell a little bit of this out there, I could kind of recoup a little bit of my investment, and also um, makes it feel better to know that there's other tables using my stuff, um, than just mine for all the effort that I put in personally into it. On the 3D printing side, we have Savage Worlds blast templates and various other, and I've seen pictures of my blast templates. I make one that has, instead of separate ones for small, medium, and large, I have an all-in-one, and so you could just hold it over wherever you want on the table. That's kind of popular, so I've probably sold the most of those.
So you're selling
Um,
3D printed, or you're tell me about the 3D printing with Blessed Machine.
Sure. So about half the Kickstarters we've done are 3D printing. Basically, we did Wild West hardware, which is ammo trackers and dice towers and things like that, for Deadlands adjacent games. I run big shootouts, in at the conventions, where we use all that, track the ammo. We've done tokens. So all my bennies I make myself, for use in the game. So we have, they're a little bit thicker and smaller than the standard U.S. Sort of poker chip size. There's just reasons for that, because we needed thicker because we get a lot of depth. But we have 100 different kinds of tokens that we can use. So in my I use different tokens for bennies in every one of my games. Every character, usually I assign one of those tokens to each character in those games, so they get something unique to sit in front of them. We do a set of 20 tokens for all the statuses too. If you want to, for Savage Worlds, if you want to track whether a character's incapacitated or wounded, you could stack a bunch of tokens underneath them or on your character sheet, however you want to do. So,
That sounds like
so
it'd
a
be real.
variety of those, yeah.
Sounds like that'd be really useful for a convention.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what I've done is kind of trying to streamline convention play, and that's really what moved me. Shane always says, Savage Worlds is fast, fun, and furious. I was looking for something that was fast.
Hmm.
I would say that there's faster games in Savage Worlds, but I'm coming from Hero System,
Right.
which is not a fast system. So this is, like, to me, it has enough crunch, and yet it still can move. I can have combats in a 4-hour session and not be freaking out that I'm not going to be able to get done what I want to do. I don't really think I could do that, with in a Champions game if I wanted to. I had fights with 6 players go on for 3 sessions, in my home game.
That's
Again, I can do things kind of elaborate. I mean, there's times where I've had multiple tiers of my gaming table with people on the low tier, and so I'll admit that I'm sure there's a hero GM out there that will say yes, you can. Here's the things you do to make it happen. But I just wanted something that I think was a little bit more meant to run at a convention, and I think Savage Worlds is great for that.
it really is. I think it's. I got to tell you, man. Like uh, it does it for me. It does it for me, especially since I can actually get that nice balance of combat and a little bit of role play, and I can sort of finagle it a bit. Well, okay. Well, quick question. Like, what's in the future for Blessed Machine?
Well, we are playtesting several other settings.
Hmm.
Um, these would be different than the Campaign Cities idea. This would be an actual, full setting, more like, well, Secret Agents Cross, I call it a setting. Some people say it's an organization book, but
Right.
I feel for what it is, it has everything you need. So it's not, it's just, you have the core Suede book, you have Secret Agents Cross, you're good to go. And that seems more setting book to me. But we are going to do probably the first or second quarter. We're hoping to do Salvage, which is going to be a post-apocalyptic um, uh, space game with the idea that the world or the universe or the galaxy was very well connected, and then there was a huge war, and after that war, all these sort of just for ease of understanding for people listening, basically stargates, that really brought the size of the galaxy down pretty small.
Right.
Well, all that stuff got jacked up for secret reasons, basically, and they barely work. But they do work some of the time. So teams at some of these stations basically become salvage crews. They can go out when these arrays come back online. They can go out and go on missions to get a derelict that might have something valuable, because being a post-apocalyptic world, there's just certain things that are hard to get remanufactured. And there's still people out there that just because arrays went down, they didn't necessarily die, but they've been cut off from their planet, their families. So basically, you take on the role of a salvager, and you go out and you go on these missions. Your goal is to get as much creds and better ship and more missions, and so it's very very mission based. But there is an overarching sort of, I suspect we'll have a plot point campaign for this,
Hmm.
so you can find out what really happened to the arrays and what really caused the apocalypse, to shut them all down. But the focus is really, I think, will be mission generators. You should be able to to come up in relatively quickly with an adventure to run, any evening. And that I did that in Cross as well. I've forced players or GMs that I know, said, you just use the generator and create a mission and let's play it, just to see how well it worked. And it was great. It was fun. So we'll probably jack that up a notch or two for this, because we have a galaxy to explore that way. So that'll be next year. I'm not 100% sure when. We were thinking first quarter, but I'm feeling like I need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
I got a lot. I got a lot on my plate.
Three big
And then,
projects, Pete. That's a lot.
yeah, yeah. So I got some other things. I've got a Renaissance era thing I'm working on that I've been doing for probably as long as Cross. That one, I think I finally nailed the elevator pitch kind of aspect of that, and I'm running it at conventions a little bit. But that was just a slow burn because there's just so much history that I want to bring in. It'll be easier to pull salvage forward, because it's more whole cloth creation. I do a lot. I can tell you that the internet has been the greatest thing for GMs. It's also one of the worst things for GMs, because I can lose whole nights for one line in my little adventure of research. Just because I want to find out, did something like this really happen in our world? Because it just, for me, it provides so much more validity to the story. Because everything in Cross is it's real until it's supernatural, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way I've always wanted. So you could believe it. You'll believe the 80% because you could look that up, and then the 20%, that should be an easy thing for you to believe, because you believe the 80% because it was from you know fact, right? So,
Right.
but yes, it could get tiresome to be that way. So salvage will be interesting because I'll get that ability to just be like, making up, races, making up planets, just do whatever I want, you know. So looking forward to that.
Well, I am too. You've put out some really great stuff so far, and I'm really excited. I'm really happy. How much longer do people have that they can get in on the Kickstarter?
Think we're at about 12 days left.
Oh well, they need to get on in there before like you already made your goal, so it's for real.
11 days, 11 days, and it'll close out. And like, yeah, I mean, $15 gets you in for uh, a guarantee of the main story, and then Steve Long's story. And let me say adventure, not story. And then if we can just make a couple $100 more, you get two more. So I'm hopeful that we can do that. And to me, if we get that far, I think it's successful enough that we would probably take another shot at making one more of these overall things, and really keep blowing it up. And maybe we'll mix the format up a little bit. Maybe some of these off. Maybe I don't have to take the front seat for the main feature. Maybe we have someone else do that. I would like to bring in as many voices to making this, because if you think about it, isn't that what the Marvel universe is?
Yeah,
Hundreds and hundreds of voices.
the world outside your window. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting to me. So, hopeful. So yes, everyone, if you want to join me, please do.
Assemble. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Pete Ruttman with Blessed Machines. Pete, it has been a pleasure, and it's always fun chatting you up, man. So thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll be doing something together soon here.
Cross
So
your
I'll be
fingers,
happy
say a
to.
prayer.
I'll happy to be on. I'm sure you'll want Bobby,
Yeah,
but I could come along as his sidekick.
yeah. We'll see if we can drag him along to to like draw for us.
Oh,
Well,
that was exciting.
the Kickstarter is Campaign City. Go check it out. Go back it. Let's go ahead and see if we can get that bank and that adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Campaign City Supers actually is the
Campaign
full,
City Supers.
Campaign City Supers for Savage Worlds.
That's
You should
right.
be able to, and once we get this up, we can put links in there, right? So,
Yep.
um,
It'll be in the show notes down at the bottom. There'll be a link for it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us in the Robot Room. I'm Dustin, Mayor of Star City, and thanks for your time.